Okay. I kind of want to do them in the order that they appear in. So what is the first one? The Asylum Demon. The Asylum Demon. It's fine. It has like no moves. It just like does like the big sweeping attacks, and you can pretty much hide like under its fupa and just like chip away at it, which is good when you start the game because you don't know how to do anything else. Yeah, I would say definitive B tier for the Asylum Demon. And actually, now that I think about it, I want to add an F tier because some bosses deserve a straight up F in this game. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Yeah, it's like, it makes sense for like the first boss, right? Like it's pretty easy, but like, you know, it doesn't really test like all your mechanics in the game. Like you can kind of just get close to it, avoid all of its attacks, and just whack away at it. And it's cool that it teaches you how to plunging attack. I remember the first time I fought the Asylum Demon, I wished I could go back up and do another plunging attack. But alas, which actually brings me to the next one, the Taurus Demon. Now, Taurus Demon, I think, is B tier as well. I think it's better than the Asylum Demon, but I do have some problems with the Taurus Demon. I wish that the Taurus Demon allowed more freedom rather than less than the Asylum Demon. Now, I get why they don't offer you more freedom, because they want to encourage you to seek out that path to go up the tower to get the plunging attack on it. And that is nice early in the game when like this Taurus Demon still like two-shots you and you don't know what the fuck you're doing. But for me, very awkward fighting it on the bridge. I didn't really enjoy getting stuck in like the corners and sides of that. And again, Taurus Demon as like an enemy doesn't have like the craziest moves or anything. It's just kind of like a big fat beast that swings really wide and can do a lot of damage. And that's kind of its purpose. Again, as like a gatekeeper boss, it makes sense. I just wish maybe it taught you more than how to like do the plunging attack, because I think that's all that fight is really good for, is just teaching you to seek out other opportunities. But that fight doesn't really have a lot of other opportunities other than just either facing it head on or going for the plunging attacks. So yeah. What's next? Is no, it's Bell Gargoyles. Man, the absolute like struggle I had with the Bell Gargoyles. You would think it could go anywhere from F to A or S, honestly. I think I'm gonna go A with it though. I think I have a fundamental problem, and I was saying this earlier, I have a fundamental problem with gank fights in Dark Souls and Souls games in general, in that they're never very fun and they feel pretty random. The Bell Gargoyles kind of answers that by making it so that one gargoyle doesn't really attack you aggressively, which works, but it's still a very uncomfortable fight. But I like it. You know what? I will say that after some time has passed, I've decided that I like the Bell Gargoyle fight. The only reason I'm putting it A rather than S is because I don't like how they can attack through each other. I think that's kind of cheap, and it ruins the point of like, you know, being able to see them telegraph their attacks and stuff. And it just makes it like really random. When that happens, of course, which is not super common, but yeah. And the fire is like a little bit glitchy. I don't know. It's not too bad though. And overall, I do like this fight. And obviously Bell Gargoyles, iconic fight in Dark Souls. And it's good overall. I like it. Next, do we just go straight to the Capra Demon? I think you do, huh? Yeah, it's unfortunate that one of the best boss fights in the game is getting followed up with this, but I don't think I can go anything other than F tier for Capra Demon. I intensely dislike it. The Capra Demon itself as an enemy is lazy. It makes me wonder if the Capra Demon was made first for the Demon Ruins and then placed in this early game area. I don't know if that's the case, but it does make me wonder that, because as a boss, it doesn't really have a very interesting moveset. It doesn't really do all that much. It doesn't really teach you all that much. The only like unique quirk of this is that it's got minions, you know, it's got the two dogs, which is like inherently, I'm not going to sit here and say it's the worst thing ever. The dogs die easily. The real problem is more with like the physics of the fight. You know, you walk in and sometimes you just can't get out. And then when it comes to actually fighting the Capra, when you do get the dogs killed, I don't know. The best strategy seems to just be to go up on that ledge and plunging attack it. And which is, again, is like, it's fine. That's how I did it. But it just didn't feel very fun to me. Unironically, they probably didn't have room because they already built parts of the sewers. That actually is funny if true. But honestly, they could have just, they could have just made space. Yeah, I don't know. It's the arena's bad. The camera's bad. The dogs, the dogs don't stop spawning in even if you beat him. Yeah, I noticed that last time I went in there. It's kind of funny. But yeah, overall, and it's unnecessary too. It's just like a weird dead end, and the only purpose of it is so that you can get into the depths. So adds like a gatekeeper boss. It doesn't make any sense. It's not fun. For me, it was like kind of an iconic moment in my playthrough because like I was still like unsure how I felt about Dark Souls. And honestly, I never hated it more than when I was fighting the Capra Demon. But beating the Capra Demon was like the juice I needed to basically finish my playthrough. Like at that moment, I knew that if I could get through that, I could do it. Like I could beat the game. So for that reason, I will always look back fondly on fighting the Capra Demon, but not for the actual fight, because the actual fight sucks. Look at all the bosses you wouldn't have played if you gave up. Yeah, I know. I mean, there is some, like, arguably there's at least one worse one, but most of them are a lot better. Let's see. And then next comes Gaping Dragon. Gaping Dragon kind of just feels like another B. Yeah, I think it's just another B. It's fine. I didn't realize that people struggled with the Gaping Dragon. This is kind of the first like really gigantic boss that you fight. But it's a pretty well executed one. All things considered. Once you figure out how to fight it though, it's a little boring. Like it's really exciting at first when this like abomination crawls out of the sewers and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to fight that thing." But then once you actually start fighting it, it very quickly becomes like, all right, I just avoid this attack, and then I have a huge punish window where I can do a ton of damage. So a little boring, but a cool boss. For me, not very hard, but I've heard that some people do struggle with it. So I don't know. I get maybe if you struggle with this boss, you might hate it. But for me, just all right. Cool looking boss, but all in all, okay fight. What comes after that? I'm trying to remember. Quelaag. That. Right? I think so. Quelaag is an S tier boss. It's so cool, man. It's so cool. The only nitpick that I maybe have about this boss is just the somewhat poorly telegraphed explosion attack, which killed me multiple times, but like in terms of like difficulty, this was everything I wanted out of a boss fight. Like it actually made me like think about what I was doing at any given moment. And I liked that. It was like the perfect amount of challenge for what I wanted out of a game like this. And I honestly wish, like, not to like rag on some of the boss fights in this game, but I honestly wish that more were like this. I do think that Quelaag is a super, super good boss. Very cool. I had fun with it. And yeah, it was probably like the first like truly great boss that I felt like, at least. Cool arena, cool boss design, booba. Yeah, the works. Yeah, it's just a good boss. And then what's after that? Is the Iron Golem next? Because yeah, you ring the bell, you go through Sens, and then you fight Iron Golem. I kind of want to go A with the Iron Golem. Is that crazy? Oh, Moonlight. Did I fight? I guess I don't remember what order I fought them in. Moonlight Butterfly, I'm just going to drop in like D. Visually cool boss fight. Music is awesome. Boss fight itself, I mean, it's just dodging attacks until the butterfly literally like just presents itself for massive damage. There's nothing to it. But it's not an F tier because it's at least like cool looking, I guess. Which Capra Demon doesn't even have the uniqueness factor. like the butterfly does. Although there are butterflies later on, but they don't behave like the Moonlight Butterfly, I guess. But it's, you know what, I'm almost tempted to go C with it. Maybe I will. I'm gonna keep it in D for now, but we'll see how things shake out. And then I guess next one is the Iron Giant or the Iron Golem. I feel like an A tier, below Bell Gargoyles. What to say about the Golem? I didn't really fight the Golem for very long. I think I killed it in like 3. But I fought it long enough to kind of like see all of its moves, and yeah, it was just pretty neat. It is a giant boss, which is always like, it always just feels like you're kind of tickling their... I did kill the giant. I imagine it sucks if you don't kill the giant. Killed it in 4. Yeah, that sounds about right. It wasn't a ton, but it was, I struggled a tiny bit with it. But yeah, it's like, it's kind of the classic pitfall of From Software giant bosses, where it's kind of like you're just tickling their ankles to kill them. But the Iron Golem actually moves around a bit, actually has an interesting variety of attacks, and the arena both kind of helps and hinders you. Like the arena is interesting. I don't love arenas where you could fall off the edge for obvious reasons. I do a lot of falling. But in this particular one, I thought it was cool because you can kind of dodge some attacks by like hiding behind the ledges and stuff. But there's also like debris on it, so it kind of there's an interesting dynamic too of like, you know, just navigating it. Good boss fight, I think. And then, god damn, is Ornstein and Smough next? I guess it is. Look, I talked a little bit of shit on gank fights. Like how you can make them fall too. Yeah, I didn't, but I have heard you can do that. I talked a lot of shit on gank fights, but Ornstein and Smough is an S tier boss fight. Reluctantly, I will admit, with all of my struggles with them, it is an S tier boss fight. It's just cool. This is one that I will say is like A tier mechanically, but at like S tier just because of like how cool it is. And the fact that you fight 1v1 with the guy that you don't kill is awesome. Like anime battle where you fight like the giant electrified version of Ornstein or Smough. That's super awesome. And as a gank, it doesn't play that badly. My one complaint is that the two guys kind of like get caught on each other and glitch on each other and like whack each other around, which is kind of like the antithesis of the gargoyle fight, because when you think about it, the gargoyles the gargoyles just attack through each other, but Ornstein and Smough kind of like bump each other around, which is weird and leads to some like inconsistencies with how they move around the arena. Like sometimes Ornstein will literally just like teleport to you. And I know he has like a dash move, but sometimes he literally will like just appear next to you like fucking nothing personal, kid. And Ornstein's hammer has like a weird hitbox. But none of that shit really matters because the arena's amazing. The locale of an Orlando is amazing. The design of the bosses is amazing. I hate it, but also I have to admit that it's just one of the best fights in the game. Like you just can't deny that. Below Quelaag, which is honestly one of my favorite bosses the more I think about it, but still up there. Cool boss. God, and then the game kind of opens up a bit. I could do Stray Demon next, I suppose. I don't mind, in the context of the Asylum, I don't mind having a rematch with the Asylum Demon once. Keyword, once. The Stray Demon is fine. The arena adds an interesting dynamic. His little AoE attack adds an interesting dynamic, but I really can't sit here and say, honestly, that the Stray Demon is better or worse than the Asylum Demon. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Seath was the next boss I fought. Seath is going to go firmly in the D tier, I think. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like the fight. It was kind of like... It was very underwhelming for how cool the area that he's in and how cool the design of the boss is. It was very underwhelming that you're just dodging his AoE effects. And I feel like the boss is... easy. Like I don't want to say easy because I died to him like 5 times, but it's not like mechanically difficult. It's just about dodging the attacks, and then I feel like they attack the curse on just to make it a little bit harder. Like I think the game was getting ready to ship, and they're like, all right, this fight's a little underwhelming, and they threw the curse on there to be like, well, let's add a little extra punish. And so for that reason, I really don't like it. And mechanically, it's just not that interesting. And the gimmick of having to run across the arena and hit the little thing, and then like it's just pointless. It doesn't add anything. Yeah, pretty bad fight. Not the worst, but pretty bad. What did I do after that? Did I do the Four Kings next? No, I did Pinwheel. I mean, Pinwheel, I think, is like I don't really get it. The design is awesome. The arena is awesome. The introduction of Pinwheel is awesome, and then you just it's just a normal enemy. This is like a you're level 100 in Elden Ring, and you go back to Limgrave and you go to a random cave and fight the boss, and you kill him in like 2 hits. Like why is this a boss? And then like to add insult to injury, you walk into the next room and there's like 4 pinwheels. So you're like, oh, that wasn't even special. They're all over the place. How do we fix Pinwheel? Just more health, I guess. I don't know. It's just weird. It doesn't make sense. And the worst part about it is that like they gave him like a cool arena and a cool introduction, and just kind of did nothing with it. Like it's just an enemy with a boss health bar for some reason. Okay, so Nito. I honestly, wait, at some point in here I did Sif. I think I want to go, I'll go A tier, but bottom of A tier with Sif. Because I think mechanically, Sif is not like the greatest boss, but just like lore wise, presentation wise, and just like feels wise. Like, if you died to Pinwheel, the chat would never let it go. Yeah. Just like presentation wise and feels wise, the hardest thing about the Sif boss fight is that you have to kill Sif. But it like it's cool to like fighting a giant dog. The fight is actually fine. Like it's fun mechanically. It's fairly easy. I died once or twice, so it's not like insanely easy, but it's just a big dog with a sword, and it plays exactly how it should. So it should go to G for good boy. True. It's just a cool fight. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's like, I guess like an iconic fight too. When she's at 10 HP and starts, or 10% HP and starts limping. Yeah, I know. It's sad. She does that when you summon her in the Manus fight too, I noticed. So Nito, I guess, is next. Nito, I think, is like maybe arguably the coolest character design in the entire game. I actually think just like a bunch of dead bodies like just stuck together in this like big mass is like an insanely horrifying but cool design. Nito as a boss though, I'm almost tempted to just go B tier. It's funny that the C tier is empty. I might have to reorganize this, but I think Nito's like a B tier boss. I don't know. I wish like, again, I don't like gank fights where like you're just like the real fight is against the minions, kind of like the Capra Demon. And that's what Nito's fight feels like. It's like if you don't have holy damage, you're just managing the skeletons and then just doing chip damage to Nito and avoiding his AoEs. I wish they maybe would have backed off on the skeletons a little bit and gave Nito a cooler moveset, because I feel like a boss that cool looking deserves to be cooler than he was. He is still cool, and the fight's not bad. I honestly don't think the fight is bad. The skeletons are manageable, even without holy damage, and Nito himself attacks so slow, and like the only thing that's really annoying is the AoE, but if you're having trouble with the skeletons, like at least the AoE gets rid of the skeletons, so win-win. Yeah, it's whatever. Nito is a covenant, by the way. I feel like I knew that. Yeah, Nito could have, that's the thing, is Nito could have easily been the coolest boss in the game. Like, just such a memorable boss. But they kind of, they kind of dropped the ball a little bit. But it is what it is. He's still all right as it is. I don't want to. I don't want to over exaggerate here. I'm only disappointed because I think the boss could be a lot cooler, but it is still cool. It's fine. Four Kings. I'll give like a C tier too. I don't think I missed one, did I? Yeah, because most of the rest are in DLC in the last area. Oh, I dropped my sunflower seeds. Hey, it's better than Dr. Pepper. At least sunflower seeds aren't, liquid. Speaking of liquid, gotta hydrate. Four Kings. I think what I don't like about the Four Kings is that it feels like it shoehorns you into a playstyle. And this is honestly a problem that I have with a lot of the kind of worse bosses in this game. Is that it feels like they want you to kind of play it a certain way. And while I don't mind that, what I value the most in RPGs, even like beyond Souls likes, but again, like Souls games, I think this applies to doubly so, or at least more, is that like the freedom of approaches is what I really want. And yeah, you're free to like beat your head against the wall of the Four Kings and like have 6 of them attacking you at once if you so please, and try to dodge their attacks with light rolls and whatever else. But honestly, the best strategy is to just go full poise and just wail on them so they die as quick as possible, which is not satisfying. It is not a satisfying way to fight, but it is a way to fight. Design-wise, they're pretty cool. I like how you drop down into the abyss. I don't like how it also requires a ring, because that's another thing that you don't like. It's almost like they were anticipating you coming in with the wolf ring, and they were like, no. You got to put on this other shit first, boyo. So yeah, don't really like them. The abyss is cool. The whole presentation of that is cool. But the Four Kings, nah, just didn't really do it for me. Let's see. I suppose I can just do Gwyndolin. I'll do Gwyndolin and Priscilla. I think that should come as a surprise to no one. I mean, I'll put it above Pinwheel and Seath. This was one of the bosses I didn't complete. Honestly, this feels like a boss that was designed to torture melee players. Again, a boss that it feels like wants you to approach with a certain play style. Or you're just going to have a bad time. And yeah, just not a fun boss fight. It's very optional, which like I guess is more forgivable. It's really just a punishment, right? It's a punishment for hitting Guinevere. But yeah, the arena is cool. The arena is cool. I like how it kind of goes on infinitely. It kind of needs to for the fight to work. I don't like, it's not fun getting like insta-killed by the magic. You either have to be really slow and take cover behind the pillars, or you have to just like charge ahead with a shield and hope that your stamina doesn't get depleted. As a melee character, at least. If you have range, then this is probably a pretty easy fight, but I didn't. So for me, bad fight. I wouldn't, even if I did have an easy time with this, like if I had magic or something, I still would not rank it very highly, because I don't think it's fun to kind of like punish / reward a certain play style to that extent. I think that this was executed a lot better with a certain boss in Elden Ring, and I'll just leave it at that. Priscilla, I can go like C, I guess. Again, an optional boss. Interesting moral dilemma when it comes to the painted world and Priscilla. And I honestly killed her just because I wanted to see what the boss fight was like. But the boss fight itself, the mechanic of her being invisible is unique, but a little bit annoying. Not super fun to play around, but it's, it's saved by the fact that it's very easy to deal with by just kind of hitting her. And but then, yeah, once you hit her, she kind of just stands there and occasionally does like one of her like sweeping attacks. It's almost like she's just waiting to die. So yeah, it's not terrible. It's definitely a unique boss fight, but it also wasn't my favorite. I think it's better than these. Like it's got more going on than Moonlight Butterfly and Pinwheel. and it's more of a fair boss fight than Gwyndolin. But it's still not. It's wasted potential essentially. I almost wonder why she's a boss fight at all. Because it doesn't really like it. It almost seems like maybe like you could have like said, like, no, I want to wipe out your painted world, and then maybe she sends like something else to fight you. I don't know. Not that she can't fight you herself. She's giant. She's got a big stick, but you know. It just feels like she doesn't want to fight you. Like the whole fight, it just feels like she doesn't want to fight you, which makes it kind of weird. Which I guess is the point. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm realizing is probably the point. But yeah, I don't know, just weird fight. It's not bad, but just a little weird. And then we get to the Demon Ruins stuff. I mean, Demon Firesage. I said it with the Stray Demon. I'm like, you know, one kind of surprise reprise of the Asylum Demon is fine. But the Demon Firesage just feels unnecessary, and it's the same as the Stray Demon. It's literally like, I'm just gonna call it like it is. It's a palette swap of the Stray Demon. But the reason that I'm gonna put this lower is because, for one, unnecessary. I feel like there's 4 bosses in this area. And one of them is a reskin, which is, you know, like, yeah, Resident Sleeper. And I do think mechanically the fight was made worse by allowing it to do the AoE by just doing like the swipe attack, because it makes it a lot harder to dodge. It's like artificial difficulty inflation of that fight, basically, because otherwise it's easy as fuck. It's just like the Stray Demon. But they just made it like that little bit more annoying. And for that reason, and because it's literally just a reskin, I'm dropping it. And then, oh no, Ceaseless Discharge actually comes first. Ceaseless Discharge, I'm giving a straight up D to. Bottom of D, honestly. Pointless boss. It's basically like the Hydra is not on here, but it's basically like the Hydra, which I also think is a very boring fight, where you bait out its attacks, wait for it to throw its thing at you. I don't even know what you would call it with the Ceaseless Discharge. Its limb. And then you just attack it and whack at it and just hope you don't die. I'm aware that there's a way to kind of like bait it off the edge and kill it that way. Which is cool only because I think this fight is a waste of time. Not a fun boss fight at all. Mechanically really simple, boring. But it does a lot of damage, so you could easily die to the Ceaseless Discharge. Bad. Not F tier, though. That is reserved for 2 boss fights, and 2 boss fights only, in my mind. Then comes the Centipede Demon. It's a little bit better. Like, it actually moves around the arena. It has a somewhat interesting arena, but it's, like, I mean, I had a glitch on this one where it straight up got stuck in the ceiling. I'm giving it a little bit higher of a rating than Ceaseless Discharge and some of these other like just boring, pointless bosses, because at least it moves around and does stuff, and has like a variety of attacks. But yeah, kind of a boring boss still. Honestly, the Demon Firesage, even though it's like a reused boss, is legitimately more interesting than the Centipede Demon. And yeah, kind of just is what it is. The Centipede does drop the ring that lets you walk through lava, which is nice, but they could also just give that to you. I don't know. I don't think that like the worst area in the game essentially needed to have 4 bosses. Like, is that crazy to say? It just felt like they were running out of ideas. Like all these bosses are just like fiery dudes with fiery attacks. I guess other than Bed of Chaos, but again, the next one, Bed of Chaos, it's not only an F tier, it's the bottom of F tier. I mean, like, what is this boss fight, man? I know that I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, because it's clear that the Bed of Chaos is the product of rushed development, and that there probably was supposed to be a cool boss fight here, but it's kind of just like the ending of disappointment. Like, it's too big of an area with too little content, but the problem is it looks cool. It looks really cool. Like, it looks like that was supposed to be a cool area. And they kind of just squandered it with, you know, basically 1 or 2 new enemy types, and one of the worst boss fights in the game. No, the worst boss fight in the game. The only reason I didn't lose my mind on this boss fight was, one, because I got pretty lucky, and I got it done with in maybe like 10-15 tries. Even with some of those being like I had no idea what I was supposed to do. And because I knew that the boss fight was ridiculous, and I came in with absolutely zero expectations other than that it was probably going to be ridiculous. And, you know, I got what I bargained for. But it's almost like they knew the boss fight was broken because it saves your progress. This is the only boss fight in the game that saves your progress. It's like, I don't know if this makes sense, but it's literally like Bed of Chaos is like a boss fight that came from a game with bad boss fights and was thrown into Dark Souls. Like, it literally feels like it came from a different game. Yeah, and I don't know what else to say about it than that. Crazy boss fight. Insane that made it out off the cutting room floor. You honestly could have removed the entire last area, and I think not that much of value would have been lost. Yeah, like, if that was the first phase, it would have been a little more forgivable. First phase, maybe minus the platforming stuff. But, yeah, otherwise, I don't know. Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. Gwyn is definitely interesting. He's the final boss, but he's kind of a weird final boss. You know, he doesn't have a second form. He doesn't really pull any punches. He's just a dude with a sword that just smacks the shit out of you. And it's really an interesting change of pace from the rest of the game's bosses that are big, menacing creatures, basically. Gwyn is just a guy. And honestly, I kind of respect the subversion of expectations of what a like final boss fight is supposed to be. Gwyn, though, is Gwyn, I'll speak to that in a second. Gwyn, though, is kind of just a surprising boss, I guess. You kind of look at him and you're like, oh, this guy's not a big deal. And then he smacks the shit out of you and you're like, all right, okay, he attacks as fast as the wind. I need to figure out what to do. The big discussion around him is like, does parrying make him too easy? And I beat him by parrying him 4 times, so I'm not one to talk, but I didn't have the biggest struggle with him. But if you don't parry him, you really don't have like windows to heal or like even really windows to deal damage to him unless you have a pretty quick weapon, which the Zweihander is not. So all in all, I think presentation-wise, in terms of like kind of subversion of expectations, I think Gwyn is a very cool boss. I think he is fun to fight in that you basically just get to fight like kind of a normal enemy 1-to-1, like just as is. Like it doesn't like pull any punches, you know. He doesn't have minions like the Capra Demon or Nito. You know, a second Gwyn doesn't jump down. It's just like a cool 1v1 like kind of mirror match fight. So for that reason, I'll put it in A. Below the Gargoyles maybe, but above the Golem. I don't think it's an S tier boss fight, but I do think it's cool. I think it's a fitting final boss. I was not disappointed. Which brings us just to the DLC. Let's see. Sanctuary Guardian is the gatekeeper boss of the DLC. How do I feel about Sanctuary Guardian? I had a bad time with the Guardian when I first fought it because I was using my Lightning Claymore, which was doing nothing to it. Which, of course, it's a lightning enemy. I shouldn't be surprised that it is resistant to it, but you know what? Is what it is. But once I started using a different weapon, I found the Sanctuary Guardian fight to be quite fun. The Sanctuary Guardian has a shitload of moves, like almost a surprising amount of moves. It's definitely like an escalation from the base game's bosses and very refreshing after fighting, you know, for me, it was after fighting Demon Firesage, Centipede Demon, Ceaseless Discharge, and Bed of Chaos. So this was an awesome boss fight in comparison to that. In comparison to the rest of the DLC, it's kind of middle of the pack. I would maybe put it above I put it above the Golem and Sith. I would just put it below Gwyn. I don't think it's better than Gwyn, but it's a cool fight. It ended up being a little easier once I fought it with a better weapon, a more suited weapon for that fight. But it's still a challenging boss fight. It attacks fast. It keeps you on your toes. All in all, enjoyed it. It's a very dynamic fight too. Like the Guardian really responds to a lot of what you do with like different attacks and things like that. But honestly, all of the things that I'm saying about the Sanctuary Guardian can be said about this next boss and more. Artorias. I mean, it's just so obvious, dude. This is just it's the best fight in the game. Honestly, you could plop Artorias in almost any Souls game. I assume, I haven't played all of them, but like, I assume you could plop him in any Souls game and he would not only fit, but he would also be like one of the coolest bosses there as well. Fighting Artorias like was the closest I ever got to Dark Souls, just feeling like exactly what I wanted it to feel like, you know? Like, I got my ass kicked by him a couple times. I started to learn when to dodge, when to attack. And it just became this dance where like he would attack and I would attack. And the actual flow of the fight with Artorias is so satisfying. And on top of that, it's an amazing character with cool lore. Really, really like visually cool moveset, a really cool arena, a really cool introduction. They just nailed everything with Artorias. It just is like the best boss in the game. And I know that's cliche. And I know that like I'm not saying anything unique here, but it's definitely the best boss fight in the game, hands down. I almost would put it like on a tier above, but I mean this is a good S tier, I think. Artorias definitely stands above them though as the best one. Kalameet, you guys saw me fight Kalameet. I didn't finish the fight. I think it's probably the least interesting boss in the DLC, though it is cool. Put it in F just to fuck with people. Yeah, we contrarians out here. Kalameet is still cool. Cool introduction. The fight itself, assuming that there isn't like a secret hidden phase that I didn't get to. Again, full disclaimer. I was getting a little burned out of the DLC and I didn't finish Kalameet, but I believe I could have. I think I could have done it in a few more tries. Little janky with some of the attacks, little janky with the fire. But it is also just cool to fight a dragon. I know you can fight the Drake on the bridge to Undead Parish, but I don't know if I really count that. Because Kalameet actually moves around and flies around and like you know, it's a dynamic fight. I'll put it in B, maybe below the Gaping Dragon, above Nito. I think that seems fair. Maybe actually, you know, maybe like top of B, because I think it has some stuff going for it that the Taurus Demon and the Gaping Dragon don't necessarily, but I don't think it's better than any of these A tier picks. And then it brings us to Manus, who I am very familiar with at the moment. Look, guys, I want to hate Manus. I really do. But out of all these boss fights that are hard and like kind of bullshit, like the Capra Demon, or to an extent, again, I put them in S tier, so I don't want to shit talk them too much. To an extent, Ornstein and Smough, I don't think they're bullshit, but I think they're hard because there's two of them. Manus is just a hard 1v1 boss fight. And killing him does feel like killing some great old evil or something. So for that, I will say mission successful. The things that I don't like about the boss fight are that he is like essentially like black being on a black background, and it is very hard sometimes to see where he is, what he's doing. And he blends in. The worst part is when your camera clips through like the boundaries of the arena and you see like that mist in front of your face, and that is like actually the same color as Manus. So that gets annoying. I don't like that his dark magic can insta-kill. Even as we've seen, even if you have the pendant, the like shotgun burst forward that he does, if you don't react very fast, can kill you. So Manus, I will say errs on the side of a little bit too hard, a little bit overtuned, I would say. But it was still a fun boss fight for me to figure out. And for that reason, I wasn't mad about fight. I was mad at times, but on the whole, I was not mad about fighting him for a long period of time, because it much like Artorias, but to a lesser extent, it felt satisfying to figure that fight out and go from like this. I entered the boss arena and he literally smacks me down to like, okay, I know when I roll through his attacks. I know when I attack with my sword. I know when to throw the pendant out to block his magic. And all of that like clicking for a perfect run is very satisfying. So for that reason, I think I will put him above Gwyn, as I will say a slightly better final boss, but below the Gargoyles, because I do really have a soft spot for the Gargoyles, truly, as much as I hated them. So there you go. There's our tier list. What do we think? I actually don't think I really have too much I want to move. I would say the Stray Demon could go like B or C. Really only one Asylum Demon needs to exist. And if I did do that, it would kind of even the tiers out nicely. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. The Stray Demon is just like, it's the Asylum Demon. So yeah, I think I'm happy with that. So is there anything anyone intensely disagrees with? That's what I want to know. I feel like this is a pretty non-controversial list. Maybe there's someone out there who really who loves magic characters and really likes Gwyndolin. Did I miss the entire ending of the game? Well, I beat the game on stream on Saturday, but I finished the DLC today, so I would shift around the A stuff a bit. Yeah, I mean, I look at these and I'm like, none of these to me aren't A tier, but yeah, I mean, they're kind of, some of them are pretty close. It's hard to compare the Gargoyles with like Manus, you know, like an early game boss to like literally the hardest boss in the game. You would switch Kalameet and the Golem. That's fair. Honestly, Kalameet is the one that I had the least experience with, so it's not surprising that I have kind of like a bad take on it. or a I won't say bad, but just like a half-baked take on it. Gwyn top of A or bottom of S. I would like to stress that Gwyn is like, the margins here are small. But that's fair. I don't think he's better than anyone I put in S tier, but he is a cool boss, undoubtedly.